He's big, he's bad, and he is here to ruin your day. I'm of course talking about Durin's Bane. Ladies and gentlemen, Chapter 4 of the Mines of Moria Raid is now here, and with it comes the monstrous and legendary Balrog, as seen in the Fellowship of the Ring.
Fly, you fools!
I was lucky enough to play Chapter 4 on the day of release, so today I want to tell you what the Balrog does, what you can expect from Chapter 4, and of course, the best ways for you to quell the flames of this mighty beast. So let's take a look at what this Balrog does. Durin's Bane. Keep in mind, I'm reading off the stats for difficulty 1. The numbers only go up from here. Branding Iron. Attack the target enemy for 160% damage and inflict burning for 2 turns. If the target already had burning, gain 25% turn meter. This attack ignores taunt and provoke. Smoldering Wave. Attack all enemies for 140% damage and inflict burning for 2 turns. And expose for 1 turn. This attack cannot be evaded. Gain 2 stacks of Flame Form. Sightless Dread. Dispel 1 boon from all enemies. Inflict blind for 1 turn on 3 random enemies. This attack cannot be evaded. Shadow Assault. Attack the target enemy for 250% damage and inflict Disrupted and Disable for 1 turn. Inflict blind for 2 turns. Remove 1 stamina from each of the target's abilities and reduce their turn meter by 50%. Gain 5 stacks of Shadow Form. Creature of Terror. Immune to stun, blind, burning, bleed, and poison. When this character reaches 1 health, lose all turn meter, remove all boons and banes on self, lose 5 stacks of Flame Form and Shadow Form on self, gain 1 stack of Enrage, and become flinched. While flinched, immune to all banes and turn meter removal. Gain 25% turn meter and heal 25% of this character's max health at the end of any character's turn. On reaching 100% turn meter, return to normal form. Creature of Flame. When any enemy takes damage from burning, gain 2 stacks of Flame Form and 10% turn meter. On reaching 20 stacks of Flame Form, gain 100% turn meter. On reaching 20 stacks of Flame Form, gain 100% turn meter. On turn, this character has 20 stacks of Flame Form, heals self for 30% of this character's max health, immediately use Infernal Ignition, and transform into Flame Form. Consume all stacks of Flame Form and 5 stacks of Shadow Form on self. During Flame Form, new abilities are available. On turn, if this character has no stacks of Incinerate, transform into normal form, and immune to all banes. Infernal Ignition. Attack all enemies for 120% damage and gain 12 stacks of Incinerate. This attack cannot be counterattacked. Hellfire. Attack all enemies for 140% damage and inflict burning for 1 turn. Consume 1 stack of Incinerate. Creature of Shadow. On Evade, gain 3 stacks of Shadow Form and 20% turn meter. On reaching 20 stacks of Shadow Form, gain 100% turn meter. On turn, if this character has 20 stacks of Shadow Form, heal self for 30% of this character's max health, immediately use Blackout, and transform into Shadow Form. Consume all stacks of Shadow Form and 5 stacks of Flame Form on self. During Shadow Form, new abilities are available and immune to all banes. Blackout. Dispel 1 boon from all enemies, then inflict 1 stack of Shadow Beckons on each enemy that doesn't have a boon. Gain 10% turn meter for each enemy that was inflicted with Shadow Beckons by this attack. Gain 2 stacks of counterattack. This attack cannot be evaded. Smoke Strike. Attack the target enemy for 250% damage and dispel 1 boon. If the target has Shadow Beckons, inflict blind for 1 turn. This attack cannot be evaded. And last but not least, Embrace Darkness. Attack the target enemy for... Am I reading that? 1200% damage? If the target has Shadow Beckons, instead deal a fatal blow. Transform into normal form. This attack cannot be evaded. So of course, Durin's Bane is nothing to mess around with. Don't play with fire, kids. So, what can we expect points-wise from Chapter 4? Hey, come, take a look at this, As we can see, gain 100 points for each percentage of health lost by Durin's Bane, gain 500 points for each Bane cleansed and resisted by allies, 15,000 points for flinching Durin's Bane, and of course 2,500 points whenever Durin's Bane exits Flame form or Shadow form. Well, that's all fine and great, but what can we do with that information? Well, my friends, I want you to pay attention to this second scoring rule. Gain 500 points for each Bane cleansed or resisted by an ally. Now, in his opening play, Durin's Bane likes to blind 3 of your squad members, and on his second play, he likes to whip your guys and burn them and expose them. Now, we need to get rid of these Banes, because, as you can see, every time somebody who is burned takes their turn, he is gaining 2 stacks of Flame form. And every time one of those blinded squad members misses, he is gaining 3 stacks of Shadow form. There are going to be a lot of blinds, and burns, and exposes, so you need to come with your characters who can cleanse those Banes. Let's go over some of those characters now. You guys that have Lord Elrond unlocked probably think he's going to be great no matter what, and you may be right. I don't really know, I don't have him unlocked, so I wasn't able to test him out. But the team doesn't do a lot of cleansing, aside from Arwen's second special ability that says cleanse 1 Bane from all squad members. So, if you are using your Rivendell elves, make sure you are very careful how you use that ability. Lord Elrond can do a lot of the healing. You want to use this to focus on cleansing those Banes. Those of you that have been building up your dwarves, you're in a bit of luck. As we can see here, Lord Balin is actually pretty good in this chapter, with his basic cleansing 1 Bane, but also his second special cleanses not just 2 Banes on each dwarf and elf ally, but also a Bane on every other ally. And then of course, here we go. Of course, with Bifur, his second special ability cleanses 2 Banes on himself and of course 1 other ally. So they're going to be key parts of that team. And again, you're going to have to figure out how to balance those abilities on top of each other. Now, my free-to-play players, you're going to love this. Rohan, actually pretty good for this chapter. Let's take a look at Lady Eowyn here. Check out that second special ability. She cleanses 2 Banes from herself, but also 1 from each ally. Not just Rohan allies, but all allies. That's pretty good. But also, there's a sneaky one in here. Let's take a look at... Let's take a look here at Éomer. Éomer, in his second special ability, also cleanses 1 Bane from himself and an ally, Eothane. Now, that's not quite the blanket coverage that you might want in this chapter, but it is essentially free points. And it's going to help you slow down Durin's Bane from gathering those stacks of Shadow form and gathering those stacks of Flame form. So you've been riding the coattails of your Road to Rivendell team to success, and who can blame you? They're pretty good. However, I'm afraid you're probably going to hit a wall in Chapter 4, and I do want to highlight Pippin's healing ability. It does cleanse some Banes, but with the cooldown, it being kind of high, it's kind of iffy. So you can muscle out some points in this chapter with Road to Rivendell, but you're really going to be relying a lot on Strider carrying with all of his damage. And it's just not the ideal way to get points in this chapter. So just keep that in mind. You can use Road to Rivendell, but don't expect a lot of points. So if any of you have built up your Misty Mountain squad, you're in a little bit of luck. There is Nuraz, who of course has his first special ability, which cleanses a Bane from himself and 2 random allies. It's not great, but it's okay. And if you have the team built up, it's worth trying. Of course, there's only 4 squad members right now, so you'll have to fill in with a plug-and-play character. But worry not, we do have 1 plug-and-play character that we will mention shortly. Okay, so this one did surprise me a little bit, but you might be shocked to find out that Haradrim actually has a lot of cleansing capabilities. I know, I couldn't believe it when I was doing the research. But here we are. In fact, they have the most squad members with cleansing capabilities out of any faction in the game right now. It blows my mind. But let's take a look. Of course, we have Tabib. And I know what you're thinking. You're not gonna farm Tabib. And I hear you. I'm not either. CG, what are you doing? But if we take a look at Tabib's second special ability here, of course we know that they can cleanse not just the Bane on themselves, but of course also 3 random allies, which is pretty great. The cooldown is a little iffy, but it does get supplemented here by Bakilu. That second ability on Bakilu is pretty good. It's a 3 cooldown. It cleanses a Bane on herself and 2 allies, which is pretty good. The deadly part, don't really care about. That's more important in Chapter 2. And then, of course, this one is the one that surprised me. If we come over... Take a look at Ubete, right? Kind of caught me off guard, which is ironic because he's the tank. But that second ability, the one where he gains the provoke, also cleanses Banes off of himself. It's a good way to supplement some more points on the team. And he doesn't just cleanse 1, but if you tier 6 this ability, he cleanses 3 Banes on himself. And that's pretty good. So, listen, Haradrim is going to have a hard time staying alive, but don't sleep on their ability to cleanse Banes. And of course, let's get into that plug-and-play character that I mentioned earlier. You know him, you love him. It's Naremiri, right? Naremiri. Hooray. Naremiri's first ability that grants the defensive also cleanses a Bane. It's not great, but it's good to throw on a squad. As you can see here, I threw it on my Rohan squad. It also supplemented all of those cleanses that I mentioned earlier, and it really helped the team run. They ended up getting my top score. Not saying a lot, because it was only 105,000, but it was pretty good. It worked well. And of course, you can plug and play Naremiri wherever you need to. If you need to put her on your Lord Elrond squad to get some more cleanses, that is perfectly reasonable. She can go on, she could be the 5th for your Misty Mountain squad. That is also perfectly reasonable. So definitely don't be afraid to play around and move Naremiri to different teams just to see what she can do. She's gonna be helpful no matter where she's at. Now that you know how to vanquish the burning beast Durin's Bane, I've got to get out of here. It's been fun. Have you played Chapter 4? How'd you do? How did your guild do? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course, I'll see you here next time. And today, I want to tell you Lord Balin is actually pretty good for this chapter with his first ability. I must take all. Misty Mountain squad. You'll see, of course, that she... I'm a motherfucking seagull.